So I've been using the 16-inch M1 Max MacBook Pro for over a month, and this could very well be my favorite Apple product of 2021. And I think this is the MacBook you should get. Here's why. This is the high-end 16-inch model, so this is the one with the M1 Max with 10-core CPU and 32-core GPU, 1 terabyte of SSD, and 32 gigabytes of unified memory. Apple went back to its roots with this one. Gone away of the touch bar. I know some people love it, some people hate it. I'm in between with it. It looks cool when you're scrolling through your emojis, or if you want to use predictive text. I can live without it. And besides, if you know how to master the shortcuts, you don't need a touch bar. And of course, the keyboard is back. It is a Magic Keyboard, same exact keyboard as the 2015 MacBook Pro, which I have it right here in the background. Some will argue that that's the best MacBook of all time. And it's refreshing to see the ports are back. So MagSafe is here, HDMI, and the beloved SD card slot is here. So this could eliminate dongle life, but some people may need a dongle just because of USB-A. If you're gonna be buying a dongle, you may as well do it right with DocCase. Now, this video isn't sponsored. It has a screen that showcases useful information such as screen resolution, the amount of amps that's going to the MacBook. I've been rocking out with DocCase since last year, and this is the best. Yeah, that screen is useful. It's not necessary, but it is nice and futuristic to look at than a traditional dongle. I'll throw a link in the description if you guys are interested. But I say that to say that you may find yourself needing an adapter to plug in Ethernet, USB-A, or maybe you want to plug in another HDMI. Now, I want to briefly touch on the display. It is absolutely fantastic. Essentially, it's taking the Pro XDR display and putting it into these MacBooks. So whether you get the 14-inch or the 16-inch, you get in the Apple Pro XDR display present here. So you have a 1,000,000:1 contrast ratio, vibrant colors, rich blacks. You do have a little bit of blooming, but it's very hard to tell unless you're really looking at it. Yes, the notch is here, but you can install an app to hide the notch, which I done right when I took out the MacBook out of this box. But after turning it off and getting some work done and uploading a couple of videos, you quickly forget about the notch. It's just like the iPhone, where if you're just using it, you're just gonna quickly forget about the notch. If you're watching movies, the notch is not gonna get in the way, or you can launch up into a full screen app and it's gonna automatically hide the notch. Now here's the webcam. I gotta say, it looks pretty good. Apple has finally stepped it up, coming from 720p to 1080p. I do have a little light here shining, so let me move that. And this is how I look without the light. This is how I look with the light. Still looks good, but I am impressed. The microphone quality is still pretty good. So this is adequate for Zoom calls, FaceTime, whatever the case may be. Still not as good as like a DSLR or mirrorless camera, but nonetheless, this is still pretty good. Now, it would have been nice to see center stage where the camera could follow you around, keep you into the center of the stage. I am looking directly at the webcam. I'm not looking at the screen, I'm looking at the webcam. One-on-one tips to give you guys when you FaceTime and anybody. I've been doing a lot of testing in the background. I exported 4K 30 using Final Cut Pro. I test out my iMac Pro and then my previous MacBook 16-inch 5600M. Of course, the M1 Max and the M1 Pro, which is the high-end 14-inch model. And I gotta say, the M1 Max finished faster, but not by much compared to the M1 Pro, and that concerns me. At the same time, it's like, what's the point of getting the top of the line M1 Max versus getting the M1 Pro? And as a creator, as a YouTuber, you don't want to be bottlenecked by performance. I never forget the time when a friend of mine wanted to buy an Elgato HD60, but you need to have a quad-core computer. Thankfully, I had one. Apple at the time was still selling dual core, so you could get a MacBook with a dual core processor and you couldn't be able to record gameplay footage. I don't want to be in that position, which I never was in the first place, but it's always good to future-proof yourself no matter what the situation is. And right now, I saw a plugin called M Tracker, and it needs a lot of GPU cores to really push out that plugin. And as a creator, you really don't want to have no limitations whatsoever. And especially if you plan on keeping the MacBook for 5-7 years, you don't want to find yourself being limited. That's why I went with the top of the line 16-inch. I'm editing 4K, 60 frames per second. Pretty much every video is 4K. I might be editing 8K videos down the road. Yes, you guys are probably wondering, I could have picked up the M1 Max in the 14-inch configuration, but the 16-inch is just so much better than the 14-inch. Yes, the 14-inch is lighter, is a little bit more portable, but if you look at both of these computers side by side, it's not really a big difference compared to the width of the computer. With the 16-inch, you're getting louder speakers, larger fans, a larger trackpad, better battery life, and on top of that, of course, it is a bigger display. So you have more room to work with, you have more pixels. So the 16-inch, in my opinion, is the better buy. And throughout my whole life of using MacBooks, I always went with the bigger screen one. And a rule of thumb when purchasing a MacBook, go with at least 1 terabyte of SSD storage. This is a 2 terabyte T7 from Samsung. Topping that off with 1 terabyte, you can save a lot more money if you go with that route. But yes, it looks a little ugly, whatever the case, but it saves money. And essentially, you can upgrade the SSD if you just swap out the external SSDs. But nonetheless, I don't mind rocking out with external drives because you have the flexibility of moving it to a different Mac or moving it to a different computer. Not only this computer is powerful, it is pretty quiet. Anything. I'm editing a video, I'm doing voiceovers. I have 100 different Chrome tabs open. The computer is able to stay quiet. Pretty much most of the time I'm using my monitor, and the monitor actually charges up the MacBook. So I don't really use MagSafe too much, but if I'm out and about, the MagSafe could come in handy. I'm debating if I should get AppleCare on this machine. I don't know yet. Working from home circumstances, I just been home. I don't really see the need of having AppleCare Plus. So yes, even though this is my favorite Apple device of the year, this is still a tool. This is my money-making machine right here, basically. For me, this is a great investment. But if you plan on not doing any kind of graphical work or video editing, then you can just get the MacBook Air and call it a day, or the Mac Mini. I'm easily gonna be keeping this MacBook for 5 to 7 years. No complaints so far, 1 month later. The only con maybe is the fact how Apple Silicon isn't supported with all the apps just yet. Perfect example, Elgato software isn't the best with Apple Silicon, but for me, I have my PC for that. There's no wrong answers here, whether if you go with the M1 Pro or the M1 Max. The only thing Apple is missing is the glowing Apple logo. You see how beautiful that looks? Such a missed opportunity, but I understand that Pro XDR display is thick already, so they probably don't have enough room to stick in a glowing Apple logo. So yeah, that pretty much concludes today's video. If you guys found this one helpful, I appreciate it with a thumbs up. Comment down below what you guys think, and make sure you guys subscribe with notifications on. Until next time, have a simple day.